All right, I'm gonna make a real quick video here. Somebody had some concern over the head gasket on a Volkswagen on a Type 1. There is not one. There isn't one. That's better. This is a head that's cut for 94. As you can see, it's cut right to the right into the stud holes, basically. The head seals on the flat part of the head, you know, not the side. So this is our sealing surface, the flat surface. These have been machined, obviously, when it was machined for the bigger cylinder, they cut it flat also. On a stock head, it would have a ledge here, a step. I can show you that more in detail on some different heads. But basically, it's a metal to metal surface, and that's why I was saying it's so important on these not to use the paper gasket on this side here from the case and the cylinder, because what happens is that paper gasket gets compromised, and even being a half a thousandth, you know, once it's gone, there's a space between the deck and the cylinder, and it lets the cylinder start to pound. And this cylinder had been pounding. I don't know if I can zoom in good enough for you to see the fatigue in the metal from the heat passing, but if we look right here, we can almost see the machine marks are still in the surface of the top of the barrel, and as you get over here, you can see where it's, let me see if it'll focus. It's not going to focus, but you can see this metal's been compromised. It's sort of pitted, and we had a leak here, and it was leaking compression over the top of this for quite a while. That's really common on a Volkswagen. There's a couple things you can do with these. You know, we usually, when we talk about spacers, we're running the spacer under the bottom of the cylinder, or the jug, and these basically are placed, you turn the cylinder upside down, and these would go right there, and they would sit on the deck of the cylinder and hit the deck of the case, and this would move the cylinder out and give you your deck height. Now they do have copper gaskets that you can install in here, and I'll use them on the race cars and the super high compression race motors, only because what they do is they sort of make a barrier between the cylinder head and the barrel, so when you do hit the dragging gets loose, it burns the copper gasket and not your part. The only problem with running a copper gasket on the street is that it requires multiple torquings. The copper has more yield than the aluminum and the steel, therefore you have to constantly retorque the head. On a race car, that's not an issue because you can get to all the bolt holes, but once you put the cylinder 10 over the cylinder, you can't get to the top bolts. You can take the rockers and torque the bottom of the head, but what happens over time is you just keep torquing the bottom of the head, and it actually pulls it, you know, unflat, and it starts leaking at the top. It's usually where you see the cylinders leak at the top. This is a 92. You can see how thin the sealing surface is. There's a 94, and here's a 1600. So no gasket between the cylinder head and the head unless you're running a copper gasket, and it's a copper gasket, something sort of new in the Volkswagen world. Just came into play in the last, you know, 4 or 5 years, and there's several different companies that manufacture them like anything, and you don't want to buy the cheap ones because the copper is you know, very important when you select a copper gasket. JC sells them, and he's probably the only person you want to buy them from if you want a good quality one. I think they use Clark is who manufactures theirs, or they use that material, and they manufacture all the head gaskets for the Top Fuel and alcohol cars. So I hope that answered your question. And on our 1600, we actually did put a shim in there. We have a steel shim, and that sits right on the deck here, and it's called a decompression shim, and it's 60 thousandths thick on the 1600. So we have a steel shim, but it's not per se a gasket, and it's very critical to have a flat surface anytime you're working on these. That's why if you're gonna consider using your barrel over, you know, you want to take a piece of glass, flat glass, and some sandpaper, and that's what this was done on, and sand it back flat at the top. But you want to look at it very closely and make sure, you know, you don't have any cracks, or where it's been leaking it hasn't compromised the steel. because anywhere there's a leak, you got oxygen, and anytime you got air, you know, and there's spark and fire involved, you know, that's going to be a hot spot. So you really want to make sure the cylinder is not discolored, or the, you know, the metal's not cracked or on its way to cracking. So hopefully that answered that question, and thanks for the comment. And if you don't understand it, just let me know and I'll try to explain it a little better. That's pretty much it. That's how it goes right there. And this is a 92 and a 94 hole, but that's basically how the cylinder would sit down in there. And this has to be really flat, you know. But that's how it is. There's never a gasket there, and it's sort of amazing that it seals that way, but that's how it does it.